When we talk about living well, the thinking man's guide to living well, and when we discuss retire early lifestyle, which includes a lot of different lifestyles, which we've spent like 8 years living abroad in Ecuador. We've spent the better part of a decade being homesteaders in USA. We spent several years traveling the United States with family in a travel trailer. We've done a lot of different things, so it all comes under the umbrella of retire early lifestyle. And so I'm going to talk about priorities. I'm going to focus specifically on a handful of key priorities that I'm summarizing from a list of 15 things that we're being told are not a priority in life. I'm so skeptical when I hear things like this or see videos like this, and they're interesting because we want to know, well, what does this school of thought say, and what does that school of thought say? And it's like, I looked over the list on those things that are simple enough to change, but rather I would like to spend the time on those things that if we don't pay any attention to them, they could potentially do the most distracting and damage into our lives in the long run. One of them was, well, it's not a priority to have this amazing online identity. I mean, I see people spending like thousands of dollars on an NFT for their avatar and stuff like that. That's just not a priority. but that's easily fixed. You know, sell your NFT and just, you know, do something else. But some of the very important ones are the ones that would take us away from our happiness and our ability to have the lifestyle that we dream of, that gives us peace and contentment and happiness and fulfillment. And so the very top thing on the list was getting everyone to like you and making everyone happy. We see this all over the internet. We see it in, I'm in the blogging space, and in the space that I'm in, I see it all over the place. People want to hear positive things, and I'm not advocating being negative or anything. It's just that there is a line in the sand that you don't cross, and it comes down to, some people call them ethics, other people call them other things, but it comes down to wanting to please people and making everyone happy. And if you're to be true to yourself, we want to be the person that we are called to be, and trying to make everybody happy just doesn't work. You literally can't make everybody happy, and just trying is one of those things that is going to turn into a failure. And at the very least, eventually, even though if it seems like initially we're achieving success, keeping all of our viewers happy, for example, telling them all these wonderful things, but omitting all of these other things, eventually you end up becoming a person that eventually you may not be too happy to be, trying to please everybody. And I see it all over the space. Number two was groupthink. Now this is big. I'm still seeing this all over. You would think that some of these things are for those that are younger or have less experience or less maturity, but I'm seeing people even in the retirement age group engage in groupthink. And I don't know, and part of that might be just the social media thing, where it just, I mean, it's such a great thing to be able to interface with what we think are people that are coming together for a common goal. But unfortunately, a lot of times it morphs into what the number one was, trying to please everyone. And then when we're trying to please everyone, it becomes into this groupthink where everybody just kind of follows the flavor of the group and just says only the things that are allowed in the group. And again, part of that is social media, where, you know, if you stand out in any way and have an opinion that isn't liked, why, it's really easy to just silence you. And it's just part of the age that we live in, where things are controlled to such an extent that what you see and hear is extremely controlled. It's controlled to such a point where they just shut you off. And groupthink comes in when people come into these groups, but they don't, you know, and the only information they're getting is the information that they're allowed to get. Does that make sense? The next one's a biggie. Blind faith, as described as not questioning things. And you see this in the churchiness of the people. You know, not reading your own Bible and not spending time searching the meaning of the ancient scriptures and seeking actual truth instead of what you're allowed to believe, and what, you know, and instead of being told what truth is, actually seeking truth for yourself. And listening to videos on the internet is the next thing. Blindly listening to advice on the internet. That's the next one. I mean, you know, not branching out, and it's not a priority to be blindly listening to advice on the internet. It's not a priority in life to engage in groupthink. All of these things that really aren't helping us grow or be better people. You know, it's like they're just kind of molding us into something. It's like there's this invisible hand, which isn't really invisible, that's controlling the information and controlling the knowledge and the culture and which direction people are allowed to think or not allowed to think. So it's not a priority in life to get into these groups and think alike like everyone else and not have a dissenting opinion or a differing opinion. It's like, it's not a priority in life for me to worry about what other bloggers are saying about this country or that country. And I've called out some bloggers. I don't really care what they say. I don't pay attention to them, but I do tend to pay attention to them when they are in my backyard and they're just saying all kinds of made-up stuff about a place where I live. At that point, I do care. I have called some out in the past, but it isn't something I enjoy doing. It isn't something I'm looking to do. I'm not interested in it. And once I'm not in that place anymore, even though I tend to want to defend the place, it's just kind of a waste of time. It really isn't a priority. And I don't think about it anymore. I mean, there were people that were saying Salinas was the new Florida. I mean, they never lived there. And they get uptight when you call them on this kind of stuff, call them out on it, as they should. They should be uncomfortable when they're making claims like that. And these mainstream bloggers like this, that they make all kinds of outrageous claims. But I no longer spend any time because, again, it's not in my backyard. I've moved on in my life. I don't care what these people are saying. And so we have to be careful with a lot of this information out there, because they'll sneak in little things, like they'll tell you 15 things that aren't a priority, and a lot of the things sound correct, and they are, but then they'll have one or two things that really aren't, they're just not really based on any kind of ancient source of wisdom. They're unbiblical. It's just simply an untruth. And so we need to be careful what we listen to and what we believe and what we accept as true, or as even as wisdom at all, such as how to interact with people or how to handle relationships with your family, your friends, and people in general. That has something to do with having an understanding that we're all part of the same family of creation. And so one person believes that and the next person doesn't, and so each person's going to act differently and have a different opinion. And so you don't really know what the people's values are that are making these videos, that are putting out this information that is put out as if it's some source of wisdom and such. You know, be very careful about what you listen to, what you accept as truth, and how to deal with people, and how to interact with people, and how to think about people, and how to love people, whether you should be loving towards people or not. I'm noticing some of these little things. They'll sneak something like that in the video, where the video is mostly about dry information, 2 + 2 = 4 stuff, and then in the middle of the 15 things there'll be this thing, oh, don't try to make, you know, don't honor your parents or anything, you know, they're just, you don't need them. You don't need to honor your parents or anything. It's your life. You should do as you please and don't be concerned about anyone. You know, this kind of thing, a very dismissive kind of, and it's in these videos. It's just shocking to someone that knows better. And so to me, living in the information age, to me it's all about really shutting out all of the misinformation. It's mostly all of it, like 90% of it is misinformation. Thanks for staying with the video. Thanks for coming to the channel. Have a wonderful day.